All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. And before we get to our guests, which you can kind of see over there, so it's no big surprise, first I need to thank our sponsors. First off is Robin Winston. Robin has been a great sponsor of both the newsletter and the podcast. He was there day one when we sent out our first newsletter to 147 subscribers. We sent out today over 108,000. So thank you, Robin. And he was instrumental in getting this podcast started. Also, we need to thank our good friend, former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her newest book, it's not new, but it's her newest, is Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. She's been a great sponsor. She's been there from the start on the newsletter and now the podcast. And we need to thank Congressman Andre Carson. Again, he has been there from day one on the newsletter and now joins us on the podcast. So thank you to all of our sponsors. We appreciate it very much. Joining us today, we have State Representative Cherrish Pryor. Cherrish, thank you for your support. You're a proud sponsor of the newsletter, so thank you.
No problem. Glad to be.
And can't forget about Terry Goodin sitting there with his Pacers garb on.
Pacers, man.
Boy, they played good last night. Let me ask you a question, because is my head too big?
No, you're fitting in there just fine, because I tell you what, it should be, because I know what's going to happen tomorrow night before the Pacer game. So it's absolutely amazing.
I've got to start. I've never been, worried about how big my head is. Literally, not figuratively. And I'm standing on the Notre Dame sideline many years ago, and a friend of mine kind of elbows me and he goes, you're standing next to Joe Montana. And I turned to my side and I'm like, sure the hell it was. And I'm like, hey, Joe. And he looks at me and I'm like, can I get a picture? So I took a picture, and then it was the quarter ended and we walked down to the other end, and it's before they built the upper bowl. And so they were in between courts. So I'm trying to get a selfie with Touchdown Jesus in the background. And someone taps me on the shoulder and he says, if you get that big head out of the way, you probably get a better picture. And I turn around and it was Joe Montana.
Oh, is that right? That's funny. That's funny.
So, and we are in our new,
Gary.
We are in our new studios. So we do this at the kitchen table now, but not because of any certain reason. It's because my wife kicked us out of her yoga room. So.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and let us
Whatever
know
works.
Gary.
What's up?
Go ahead and let us know again what's going on tomorrow before the Pacers game.
My son will be playing the national anthem. So this will be his fourth time. He's 20 years old. So this will be his fourth time playing for the Pacers. Should be his fifth, but last year, game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, they invited him, but he already had a paying gig that night.
Right.
So he had to turn him down. So this will be his fourth time. He's been practicing extra hard. He says he has something special. So if you guys are a fan of Van Halen or Eddie Van Halen, he just says, expect something like Eruption.
Oh, wow. Gary,
nice.
I gave him a little bit of advice, some practice advice. I told him to make sure he practiced like at 2 or 3 in the morning at home. That way he gets a better feel, and your mind's more clear, and you'll be able to understand the surroundings better. So I don't know if he's been doing that or not, if he's been getting
he's tried. A couple years ago when he played, he was he got out there and he was supposed to start, and then he stopped and he bent down and looked like he was messing with his amp. And he told me afterwards, he goes, I was getting ready to play and I forgot how to play it. And I'm like, there's only 20,000 people watching you.
Hey, it's called nerves.
That's a lot of people. Yeah, it's a lot of nerve.
So
but you have to be proud, Gary. You have to be
proud. 20,000 sold out, a gold out game tomorrow. So I told him, don't be nervous.
He won't be now. He's old hat at it now, man. He's got it all under control. So.
Well, let's start. I wanted to bring you both on. We'll start with Cherrish, because we want to just get a quick wrap of the General Assembly before we move on to our fine Lieutenant Governor and his whatever he does. So, Cherrish, talk a little bit about the session. You know, we had the school boards now going to be partisan. We had a tax increase disguised as a
property tax relief.
Property tax, school vouchers. We talked with Representative Hamilton earlier today about how we're spending $100 million to send the richest kids to private schools now, and cutting services for kids with autism, health care,
Medicaid. We're cutting
Medicaid,
people for Medicaid,
child care.
Yep.
Buying heliports for the governor, luxury cars. So talk a little bit about the session and your thoughts on it.
Well, I'm really glad it's over, Gary. I will say that there's been 2 sessions that have been the worst for me, and I think this is one of them. And because of quite frankly, some of the disheartening things that happened this session, as you mentioned, about the school boards bill, Senate Bill 287. I believe it is, as now going to allow people to declare their partisan political affiliation, which is going to make school boards partisan. And we have always had nonpartisan school boards. And, you know, we're going down the road now of trying to dictate who should and shouldn't be on the school board, because as the lieutenant governor and some who came before the elections committee stated, they want to know a person's party affiliation so that they can determine the moral compass or character of that person. And I will say, you know, I was serving on the elections committee. I've never seen a lieutenant governor or elected official at the state level come before that committee to testify. So that was a first for me to see that. And the lieutenant governor decided to make his interest into the legislature before the elections committee. So that was disheartening. I was also very concerned about the budget bill as well, because we did provide, you know, really a limited amount of money that can go to vouchers, but we did not expand pre-K. So what we're saying is we want to pay for rich kids to go to private schools, but we don't want to make sure that the low income, the kids who really need that opportunity to get ahead and a head start, we didn't fund that. So that was also disappointing.
So,
and then,
let me make sure I get this right. So we're providing $100 million for rich kids to go to private school, but we hate the poor kids and not sending them to pre-K.
Pretty much, yes. You got that right. Because we should have, like other states, a statewide pre-K program. There's no reason why we shouldn't have that.
If I
Go ahead, Terry.
Go ahead, Terry.
Interrupt you, Cherrish. You're it's very important, but so such misguided people in charge at the State House, because we're not providing daycare for the poorest of the poor, or for folks to be able to go get jobs, because we know what they can't afford to pay for daycare. So we're not going to provide daycare for these folks to be able to go to work and get a job and help contribute to the economy, as well as their children learning at an earlier level. It's such a misunderstanding, and it's such buffoonery. But it's not even leadership anymore. You can't even call it bad leadership. It's buffoonery. It's crazy. It makes no sense whatsoever. And it's just, we have got, you know, on the steering column in our car, you've got the P for park and you've got the R for reverse, and then you've got the neutral and the drive. Man, they have broken off that column, and all we have now is park and reverse in Indiana. We don't even have neutral anymore, man. It's all gone. So Indiana is either standing still, or else we're putting our pedal foot to the floor and we're going backwards. Sorry, Cherrish, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no, Terry, you're right. I would just say we're just going in reverse. I don't even think we're in neutral. I think they took neutral out too. It's just going completely in reverse, because we have that, and I'm an IU grad, and I think you're an IU grad as well. And at the 11th hour, and Terry, you know this, usually things have to pass one house or the other in order to get passed. But in the 11th hour or the 12th hour, we got
cowards. They're afraid
yes,
to face the people and put it in the public and let people talk
yep,
about it. They're cowards. Exactly
they
what.
are. And so now I've always looked forward to voting for my alumni trustee. We no longer are allowed to do that because of something that was done behind closed doors. So,
Fortunately,
talk about voter disenfranchisement. We have bills consistently that makes it difficult for people to vote. But here we have where they just took away the vote for the alumni completely for the IU trustees. But that's a way of controlling and wanting people to stay uninformed or misinformed and to listen to this craziness that is being espoused because of what reason, I just don't get and understand.
Yeah, well, fortunately, we have a great podcast that you can listen to with former Fort Wayne mayor and current professor at IU, Paul Helmke and Carrie Hamilton, go into this in detail. So now, let me ask you this, Cherrish. They did all this, the $100 million, and you can go down the line, while we have a $2.4 billion projected shortfall in our budget. And caused by not only their negligence, but also negligence from MAGA and Trump at the top.
Yeah, the Republicans, they've been running this ship for 20 years. They can't blame anybody for the debacle that we're in but themselves. Democrats haven't been in control of the legislature or the governor's office. They have controlled this. And so all of the issues and the problems that we're having is squarely at their feet. And they are responsible for all the challenges that we're having. I'm sure they don't want to take responsibility for it, but they're the ones that's been in charge. And so it's really on them.
And we'll go to Terry, but, boy, wonder how things would be different if we had a different lieutenant governor.
Well,
go ahead, Terry.
I would just say this. I think that it's important, and I had posted this on my Facebook page. As a Christian, and I'm not going to tell other people to be Christian, but as a Christian, for me, it's important to be compassionate towards people. It's important for me to help people and to look out for people. It's important that things that I do take in consideration, try to help the least of these, those left out, and those don't have opportunities. And so that has been how I've guided myself. And I think the state of Indiana in this country will be a much better place if those were the ideas and the values of all of those in leadership. So I'll just leave that there.
You're right. So here's what I don't understand. It's all right for people to disagree, man. It's okay. The governor and lieutenant, it's okay for people to disagree with you. All right. So not everybody thinks the same way. I like chocolate milk. Some folks like strawberry milk, right? Or white milk. It's okay. It's okay, man, to have disagreement. And it's like with the universities. They've taken on the universities now, and they're completely silencing anyone that has any kind of different thoughts. And as I said, we're going back to the Stone Ages. I think the next invention in the legislature is going to be the square wheel, right? So I'm looking for that to come down the line next. It's just, their motto is it's very simple. Their motto in the legislature is fix it till it's broken, right? So it's like, it makes no sense whatsoever. Just keep fixing it till it's broke. And they just keep breaking it over and over and over. And you can't, like I said, Gary, you can't even call it leadership. It's plain buffoonery. And the next level beyond buffoonery is the dumbass. I've not reached that point yet, but I tell you, man, the meter's getting farther and farther.
It's been there. I mean, you don't have to watch them for too long to see that they're there. Hey, can you two hold through the break?
Sure, absolutely.
You're listening to the SnydeReport with Gary Snyder.
It's rock and roll. It's racing. It's Miller Lite Carb Day. co-headlined by the All-American Rejects and Bret Michaels. Friday, May 23rd at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, following the final Indy 500 practice and the Pit Stop Challenge. Concert, pit, and VIP tickets available now at ims.com.
All right, welcome back to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. With me tonight, Representative Cherrish Pryor, and looks like we got Pacers forward Terry Goodin.
That's right. Guard. Point guard. I'm taking on Halliburton next, man.
Oh, man, let's hope. Any final thoughts on the General Assembly, Cherrish? And then we'll check with Terry.
No, except for to say, this year we constitutionally had to pass the budget. So that did get passed. Unfortunately, there were a lot of things that could have been done to help people. As Terry had mentioned, my former and dear colleague, whom I miss, mentioned about, making sure that folks have an opportunity to send their kids to daycare so that they can have a job. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't have cars, who depend on public mass transportation, and we haven't increased funding for public mass transportation for people. We didn't increase funding for food banks, and if you look at the numbers in the stock market, people probably are going to be needing food assistance based on what we see from the federal government. And those are just basic things that make life easier and give people an opportunity that was just not funded in the state budget. And so I just want people to know that as Democrats, we're there fighting for people in a sincere and honest way. And we want to make their lives better. Unfortunately, the Republicans are in control, and that's not what they are trying to do along with us.
Terry, anything you want to add?
Well, it's an honor for me to be here tonight with both you, Gary, and also Cherrish Pryor. Cherrish is one of my dearest friends in the legislature. And man, when I'd always have troubles, we'd always come up with solutions. The best solutions would come from Cherrish. And I appreciate her being on here with me tonight and me being able to be on with her. And most of all, I guess, Gary, you're hosting this. So it's too bad. Indiana, they just their bullying don't work. It will bite them in the butt come a couple of years down the road or a decade or so. All this that they're doing will come back and bite them in the rear end. So unfortunately, we'll have to wait and say, I told you so, but that's the problem. We'll have to wait to do that right now.
All right. I want to switch gears. I don't know if you two are comfortable with shifting gears.
Gears, Gary, we got park and reverse.
Park and reverse.
It's only reverse if you're switching gears.
Well, you're going to think we're going in reverse like 60 years because our lieutenant governor, I mean, we can sit here and talk about him giving no bid contracts to his church, $150,000 to his church's lawyer. We can talk about the luxury SUVs. But one thing that really caught attention and is catching on nationally is this video that basically he's saying that the 3/5 compromise was a good thing. So let's take a look.
Hey everybody, this is Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith. Want to give you an update on a bill, Senate Bill 289, which is called Unlawful Discrimination Bill. Senator Byrne is carrying that bill. It was in the Senate just a few minutes ago. Well, if you were watching or listening to the Senate, if you were trying to fall asleep and we're trying to get some good background noise on, you might have been listening. The Senate on the Democrat side, they got up and they started talking about how this bill embodies something to the effect of the 3/5 compromise. They were bringing that up. They were saying this is a bad bill because it actually encourages discrimination, just like the 3/5 compromise, going all the way back to the foundations of our nation. I would like to share with you the 3/5 compromise is not a pro-discrimination compromise. It was not a pro-discrimination or a slave-driving compromise that the founders made. It was actually just the opposite. It was a compromise that the North made with the South. At the time, there were basically 13 independent nations. They had not really created a constitution. They were sort of a European Union-esque nation, and they were saying to the pro-slave states, hey, if you want to count your slaves to have representation, more representation in Congress, we're not going to let you do that, because they knew that that would codify things like slavery into our nation. And the North stood up to the South. And they said, we're going to, if you're going to count your property, because the South says, hey, this is our property, but we want to count them in the congressional representation. We want to count them in the census. At the time, there was 30,000 people would equal one member of Congress. And so they said, we're going to count our slaves. We're going to get more members of Congress in the South. The North said, you can't do that. So what they came back to the South and they said, fine, if you want to count your property, your slaves, as whole people, we're going to count our property. We're going to count our tables. We're going to count our chairs. We're going to count all the stuff that we have in our house. And the South said, well, you can't do that. And they said, well, you're doing it with your property. We're doing it with our property. So what they did is they came up with a 3/5 compromise. They said, you will only get 3/5 of a vote when it comes to your slave. And what that did, it actually limited the number of pro-slave representatives in Congress by 40%. This was a great move by the North to make sure that slavery would be eradicated in our nation. They knew what they were doing. But now here you have Senate Democrats in today's American Republic who do not understand that. They think the 3/5 compromise was something that was a scourge on black people. That's not what it was. And how did we get to this place? We got to this place because of DEI in education. We got to this place because you have professors at woke schools that will not teach the history of what actually happened back in the foundations of our nation. Many, many men and leaders in our nation's history knew how wicked slavery was. They knew that God had created even black people, white people, red people, all people in his image, and they were fighting for equality for all. But they're not taught that today. And that's why you had the Senate Democrats who were getting up talking about the 3/5 compromise like it was some sort of terrible thing in our past. It was not. It actually was the exact opposite that helped to root out slavery and lead us into a more perfect union that we now see, where black, white, red, brown, all people can have equal representation under the law. That's what the 3/5 compromise was all about. So don't buy into the DEI radical revisionist history that is happening in today's culture. Know your history. Go back and study the documents. Read them for yourself like I have. Go look them up, and you will find that the 3/5 compromise and many other things like that were designed to make sure that justice was equal for all people, and equality really meant equality for all. So that's what's going on in the Senate today. Glad to keep you updated. Thanks for everyone tuning in and for all you're doing to keep our nation and our state the greatest it can possibly be.
All right. So it's just amazing. And I want to start because, he's an embarrassment to white people. I mean, he's embarrassing, period. But, you know, as a white person, I don't claim him. And literally, he is spouting off white supremacist shit. I mean, seriously. If you go and you Google white supremacy, you see that crap everywhere.
Right.
An alternative view of history. And on top of that, he blames woke schools. Who's been in charge of the woke schools for the last 20 years?
You know, Gary, it's amazing.
Go ahead, Terry, because Cherrish is just building up over there. She's going to be like Mount St. Helens and just erupt in a minute.
Well, you know, Gary, it's crazy. I'm going to try to let Cherrish cool down just a little bit and just say, as a history teacher, the 3/5 compromise had nothing to do with trying to abolish slavery. It was all about taxation. And the Southerners were being chintzy. They didn't want to be taxed on their property, which was what the African Americans were considered at that time, but they wanted to count them as population. Well, it had nothing to do with abolishing slavery. As a matter of fact, the Northerners, very few of those folks were even concerned about abolishing slavery at that time. And as a history teacher, I will go toe to toe with him or whoever else he learned that from, because what he is espousing is called revisionist history. And other than that, it's called wrong. It's called ignorance, and it's called wrong. And you're misleading people and misguiding people. So I'll leave that at that. I am just completely amazed. You know, Gary and Cherrish, on our phone, we have those little emojis that the ones with the little spinning eyes. It's like, oh my goodness, I wish.
You're paying way too much more attention to emojis than I am.
Well, I wish I could do that right now, man, because that was absolutely, the video or the clip you just showed was absolutely asinine what he said. Absolutely.
Cherrish, before you respond, let me just pull this up here. He doubled down on this yesterday. The left is losing their minds because I dared to speak the truth about our nation's history. As your lieutenant governor, I won't stand by while radical Democrats weaponize DEI lies and woke revisionist garbage to tear America apart.
You know, I would tell you, I'm not losing my mind.
We're
because
laughing.
of what he said. It's very comical, or it would be comical, if there were not other people that actually believed the inaccuracies of what he's espousing. And to call it a great, it shows his lack of understanding. And I'm quite frankly, I don't know where he gets his history from. Cherry, I think you need to probably sit him down and give him a history lesson for sure.
He says
it wasn't a great move. It wasn't a great move, and quite frankly, it wasn't the only and the best option. The best option, and as a Christian, the Christian option was to ban slavery. And so to even say that was a great move, it wasn't.
Yeah, he tried that.
Anyone who has any semblance of faith understands that. And so
he tried that like some kind of great chess move that these northern politicians made.
It absolutely wasn't. It didn't get rid of slavery. It was 78 years from the U.S. Constitution signing to the 13th Amendment. So it didn't end anything. It ingrained it into our country. And unfortunately, the remnants of slavery still exist to this day. And as long as we have individuals who go around espousing these things, who
white
are
supremacy,
confused,
it's white supremacy.
Absolutely. And white supremacy, racism. I think he would probably feel a lot better if he just came forward and truly expressed his true thoughts and how he feels versus trying to rewrite history. History is what it is. Slavery was a horrible thing. The 3/5 compromise was not something good for the northern states, the southern states, and it certainly was not something good for the African American and Black community. Slavery, it divided families. If you're a Christian, you want families to stay together. That was the number one divisionist thing that was done to the Black community. Slavery, taking people away from their family members, mothers away from their children, fathers away from their children and their wives. So,
What, Cherrish? You're exactly right. And I can't, I mean, as a white male, I can't sit here and try to defend or do whatever for any of this. I mean, it was wrong. Slavery was wrong. Own it. I'm trying to who are they trying to defend? I don't understand who they're trying to defend by saying, "Oh, it really wasn't that bad. We were trying to get rid of it along."
Well, I
don't get it, man. It was wrong. Own it. It's wrong. Let's move forward. Let's do better now because we know we did wrong in the past. That's what we do by when you make mistakes, you learn from them.
Own it up to it.
Yeah, you own it and you move forward and do better. And it's kind of like they're trying to go back and say, well, there wasn't a mistake made back then. What are you talking about? Slavery wasn't a mistake. That's exactly what the undertone is. And that's the dog whistle that I hear as a person that has conversations with a lot of folks. I mean, when he says that stuff, he's saying that it's just a blatant dog whistle of hate.
I mean, at this point, I don't even think it's a dog whistle. I mean, he's literally coming out and saying, look at me, I'm smarter than you. I got my constitutional whatever from Hillsdale College. And he brags about it. He claims that he talks about DEI and woke schools. Well, hell, Republicans have been in charge of our schools for the last 20 years. So, I call it what it is. You guys don't have to, but, he's taking his cue from MAGA. He's trying to try to be, a bigger racist piece of shit than the next guy. And that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, you're right, Gary. It's one of those deals where who can be the most conservative because they think whoever is that wins the game. But, they want to play this rat race, Gary. And Cherrish, they want to play the rat race all day long. But what happens if you win the rat race? That just means you're the number one rat, right? So that's where they're at. It really is.
And It's just a sad place where we're in right now, where people feel that that is the best way for them to get ahead politically, embracing
Well,
this
you see it in our
racism.
U.S. Senator, you see it in Congress, you see it in our president, you see it in our
It's too often.
governor.
It's
I mean,
becoming common. It's a common thing that we're seeing right now. At some point, we had somewhat more than moved away from this racist stench that has plagued this country, and now it's coming back. And it's very unfortunate that we're in this place. But what do they gain from this?
it's in the
At
word
the end of
white
the day,
supremacy. They
it
want to
is.
feel superior.
They want to feel superior, but at the end of the day, they're really not.
No.
At the end of the day, it's still suffering for all. When one person or one group suffers, everyone suffers. You can't isolate one group from the other. And so it harms and it hurts everybody, including themselves and their children.
You're
Terry.
exactly right. And here's what I was always told. If you want to be superior, help those who can't help themselves. If you want to be superior, help heal the sick. If you want to be superior, help feed the poor. That's what makes you superior, not trying to force yourself on others and make them do what you think you want them to do. That does not make you just superior. As a matter of fact, that makes you inferior, makes you look very weak because you're trying to force on the people your own way that you feel like there must be something wrong with what I'm doing because nobody else wants to do this. I've got to force them to follow me. You know,
And if you're confident in yourself, if you're truly confident in yourself, you understand that your greatest gift to anyone is lifting up other people.
Right.
I don't need to put down anybody to lift up Cherrish. When I lift up other people, I'm lifting myself. And unfortunately, we have too many people, including our lieutenant governor, who I guess doesn't understand that. And it's just much easier to, I guess, to espouse the total deplorable comments than it is to try to do what is just and what's right, and quite frankly, to do the Christian thing. Much easier to do the wrong thing than it is the right thing, and that's very unfortunate. We have people in leadership that believe that.
I've got to wrap things up real quick. Cherrish, any final thoughts?
Again, I'm going to go back to my post. I asked people this, I know it's going to be hard for people to do, but all I can just say is, we got to pray for people who think like that. We really, really do. As a Christian, I look forward to going to church on Sunday, getting my rejuvenation. And at the end of the day, I can't change people's minds, but what I can do is pray for them. Just say, bless his little heart.
Amen.
Bless his little heart.
Well,
go ahead, Terry. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I do have, Gary, and thank you so much again for having me on with Cherrish. It's been an honor to be able to sit next to her again here. So as I saw the things that are coming out of the legislature, and I see what's going on in some parts of the national level as well, I just do not understand the contempt for those who are not as well off as the ones who are making the rules. There's such a contempt for the poor, and my grandfather was the first person I ever heard say this. I've heard it said a lot after this, but I always hear those folks say, well, they just got to lift themselves up by the bootstraps. Yeah, we've heard that I don't know how many times, but my grandfather was the first one that I ever heard say that, well, that's kind of tough to do if you don't have any boots. Hey, let's give these folks some boots so they can lift them up. And you know what? The perfect example of that, Gary and Cherrish, is providing childcare. That's giving folks a pair of boots to be able to lift themselves up with. Guess what? They can't even lift themselves up because they do not have those boots. So it's called leadership and it's called buffoonery. Gary, I know you like to go ahead to that other word that I said it's leading to, but I'm still building up to that, man. I've still got hope. I'm just thinking that these people. I always hear a parable that says something about a camel and going through the eye of a needle. This kind of stuff. And I'm thinking maybe they need to go back and read their Bible that they keep thumping.
Well, my final thought on this is maybe it's just something to take your attention away from what's really going on. So I want to thank both of you.
2025.
Thank you, both of you, for joining us tonight. We need to thank our sponsors again, Rob and Winston. great sponsor of the show and the newsletter. Been there from the start. Jill Long Thompson, former Congresswoman, her newest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. And also Congressman Andre Carson. He is going to be in a re-election battle next year, so get out and support the good congressman. I am Gary Snyder. They are not. She is Cherrish Pryor. He is Terry Goodin, and we are out.
Go Pacers.